In the previous lecture, we have discussed the kinematic properties of reflection and refraction of electromagnetic wave, under which we have studied the laws of reflection and refraction of electromagnetic wave at a boundary separating the two dielectric media. Today we are going to discuss the dynamic properties of reflection and refraction of electromagnetic wave. Actually, these dynamic properties of reflection and refraction of electromagnetic wave are known as Fresnel's formula. First of all, we will know what are actually these Fresnel's formula. Actually, the equations relating the amplitudes of the reflected and transmitted waves with that of the incident wave are known as Fresnel's equations or Fresnel's formula. You know that the field vectors E and B, that is electric field vector E and magnetic field vector B, in a plane electromagnetic wave are mutually perpendicular, and they are also perpendicular to the direction of propagation of the wave. Though the field vector E is always at right angles to the direction of propagation, but that does not fix the direction of this electric field vector uniquely. In fact, it is said that the wave is polarized in a particular direction of its electric field vector or its magnetic field vector. In fact, it is convenient to consider the two extreme cases. The first case is in which incident wave is polarized such that the electric field vector E is normal to the plane of incidence, and in second case we will consider that when electric field vector E is parallel to the plane of incidence. So considering these two cases, we will actually relate the amplitude of the reflected wave and transmitted wave are how related to the amplitude of the incident wave, and actually those relations are known as Fresnel's equations or Fresnel's formula. So in this lecture, I am going to discuss the first case, which is actually when electric field vector E is perpendicular to the plane of incidence. For this, let us see this figure. Here, this x-axis actually denotes a surface which separates the two dielectric media. The first media is characterized by the permeability mu1 and the permittivity epsilon1. And the second medium is characterized by permeability mu2 and permittivity epsilon 2. Actually, the electric and magnetic field vector E1 and B1 of the incident wave are perpendicular to the direction of the wave propagation, which is denoted by this wave vector K1. K1 is actually the wave vector of the incident wave, and this electric field vector E1, and see this figure, and the magnetic field vector B1, or you can say H1, is perpendicular to this propagation vector K1. Actually, the electric field vector E1 is perpendicular to the plane of the incidence. I have shown it by this small circle, and this small circle actually denotes that this electric field vector is perpendicular to the plane of incidence, which is in fact our case which we are going to discuss. Now you know the media are isotropic, so the electric field vectors of the reflected and the refracted waves will be also perpendicular to the plane of incidence. Here you can see that this reflected electric field vector I am considering here is E1 prime, and the refracted electric field vector is E2. So these E1 prime and E2 prime, and similarly this B1 prime or H1 prime and B2 prime and H2 prime are also perpendicular to the plane of the incidence. not B1 but only E1 prime and E2, you can say this is perpendicular to the plane of incidence because these two media are isotropic. In fact, all the electric field vectors are shown directed away from the observer in this figure. The orientation of magnetic field vectors are chosen to give a positive flow of energy in the direction of wave vectors. The field vectors of incident and refracted waves are given by these equations which we have already studied in the previous lecture, that the incident wave is denoted by the field equation E1 equal to E naught 1 e to the power I k1 dot r minus omega t, and B1, you know how B1 is related to E1. You know that this B1 is equal to k1 cross E1 over omega 1. And if we write the expression for H1, you know that this B vector is actually equal to mu times vector H, and so H will be actually B over mu, and so the expression for H1 will be K1 cross E1 over mu1 omega 1. Similarly, here I have assumed that the frequency of the incident wave is omega 1, but you know from the law of reflection and refraction of light that the frequency does not change due to reflection and refraction. So the frequency of the incident wave, reflected wave and the refracted wave will be same. But for convenience, here I am writing the subscript 1 for the incident wave, and this will be omega 1 prime for the reflected wave and omega 2 for the refracted wave. But all these frequencies will be same in accordance with the laws of reflection and refraction which we have studied in previous lecture. Similarly, you can see that the reflected wave can be represented in this manner. This is E1 prime equal to E naught 1 prime e to the power I k1 prime dot r minus omega t. And similarly, you can see that this B1 prime will be what? This will be k1 prime cross E1 prime over omega 1 prime. Or for the expression for H1 prime will be k1 prime cross E1 prime over mu1 omega 1 prime. And similarly, you can write the expression for the refracted wave, that E2 is equal to E naught 2 e to the power I k2 dot r minus omega t. And similarly, you can write the expression for vector B2 and H2 as you are seeing here. Actually, as I have told you that all these frequencies omega 1 prime and omega 2 are equal, and let us say this is in fact omega. This is in accordance with the first law of reflection and refraction, that due to reflection and refraction there is no change in frequency, that is the frequency of the reflected wave omega 1 prime and the refracted wave which is omega 2 will be same as that of the frequency of the incident wave. And so all these three frequencies can be denoted by the symbol omega. Now you know the electric field vectors are parallel to the boundary surface in accordance with our assumption. So the continuity of the tangential component of electric field vectors E at the interface requires that the boundary condition for electric field vector is what? This is actually the tangential component of electric field vector at the surface of separation is continuous. So you can write, since the electric field vectors are lying in the plane of is actually parallel to the boundary surface, so we can write this boundary condition as E naught 1 plus E naught 1 prime is equal to E naught 2 prime. And now we will see the boundary condition for the tangential component of magnetic field vector. You know that the boundary condition for magnetic field vector at the interface requires that the tangential components of magnetic intensity is also continuous. So you can write that the tangential component of incident wave plus tangential component of magnetic field of reflected wave and will be this sum of these two will be equal to the tangential component of the magnetic intensity in the second medium, that is of the refracted wave, and symbolically it is written as h1t plus h1 prime t is equal to h2t. Now let us see this figure. What will be this h1t, h1t prime and h2t? This will be clear from this figure. We can find the value of these components. Here you can see that when we will take the component of h1 in the direction of x-axis, or you can say along the boundary, since this angle is theta I, and so this vector h1 prime actually is perpendicular to this direction of k1, and so the angle between the normal and this vector will be 90 plus theta, and so its component along the normal will be h1 times cos 90 plus theta I, and so its component along the boundary will be what? That will be in fact h1 times sine 90 plus theta I. But sine 90 plus theta I, that will be equal to minus cos theta I, and so I have written here, you can see this will be actually equal to minus h naught 1 cos theta I. Similarly, you can see from that figure that h1t will be equal to h naught 1 prime cos theta dash r. Here actually this theta dash r is the angle of reflection. And similarly, you can see from that figure that the component of the magnetic intensity H2 along the boundary will be minus h2 naught cos theta r. Actually here the factor e to the power I k dot r minus omega t is cancelled, and so the result remains like this. Now you know from the law of reflection that the angle of incidence theta I is equal to angle of reflection, that is theta dash r. So we can write this theta dash r equal to theta I. And so what will be in LHS? You can see in RHS is minus. So if we will take minus sign here as common factor, then this will be h naught 1 minus h naught 1 prime cos theta I. Cos theta I has been taken as common factor, and that will be equal to minus h naught 2 cos theta r. Then minus sign in both sides will cancel out, and so our result is h naught 1 minus h naught 1 prime cos theta I is equal to h naught 2 cos theta r. And just I have mentioned here that according to the law of reflection, this theta prime r is equal to theta I. So these are the two basic equations which I have defined in equation 1 and 2. Now you know, if we know the electric field vector, we can find the magnetic field vector by using the relation between the magnetic field vector and the electric field vector. So now we can write that H1. What will be this H1? You have seen that this H1 is actually equal to K1 cross E1 over mu1 into omega 1. I have mentioned this equation earlier. And now if we consider that along this propagation vector K1, the unit vector is n1 hat, then we can write this vector K1 as K1 times n1 hat and cross E1 and over mu1 omega 1. Now you know the magnitude of this vector k1 is actually equal to what? What is its magnitude? You can see this k1 is actually equal to, this k1 is equal to, you know that k is actually equal to omega by v, and from this relation we can deduce that this k1 is omega by v, and v is what? You know that this v is equal to root over mu into epsilon, and 1 over, not sorry, this is in fact 1 over this much. Let us write this in fact in another page. You can see how this k1 will be actually related to mu1 and epsilon 1. I am explaining it just now here. You can see that we know that k is equal to what? K is equal to omega over v, and you know the speed of electromagnetic wave in any medium is actually equal to 1 over root over mu into epsilon, and so this not 1 but this is omega, so this will be omega times root over mu into epsilon, omega times mu into epsilon. And so we can write this expression. You can see from here that this k1, when we will write the expression for k1, then we will use the subscript 1 for the first medium, and therefore we can write this electric field vector h1 is equal to what? This will be omega times root over mu1 into epsilon 1 times n1 hat cross E1 over root over mu into mu1 into epsilon 1, and there is a factor mu1 into omega 1 2, so mu1 into omega 1, but this omega 1 you know is equal to in fact omega, so this omega will cancel out, and this epsilon 1 will also cancel out, and here this root over mu1 will cancel out, and only the term which will remain here. You can see what will be the term mu1 omega 1, and k1 is actually equal to what? K1 is equal to in fact this much, and so omega cancel out, and so you can see that our result is in fact what? So h1 is equal to omega mu epsilon, so this h1 will be equal to what? This will be root over epsilon 1 over mu1 into, sorry, this will be in fact h1, this will be in fact n1 hat cross E1, cross E1. You know this N1 hat is actually along the direction of wave propagation, and this electric field vector is perpendicular to the direction of wave propagation. And so we can write this expression as H1 is equal to root over epsilon 1 over mu 1 into E1 into 1. This is magnitude of E1 and this is magnitude of 1 is magnitude of N1 hat, and sine 90 into a unit vector which will be actually along the direction of this magnetic field vector. Let us say this vector is NH hat. This is NH hat. And so when we will write the expression for this E1 hat, so E1, and then we can find the expression for H01, and therefore you can write this H01 will be equal to root over epsilon 1 over mu 1 times E01. So this is an expression for H01. Similarly, we can find the expression for H01 dashed and H02 in this way. Similarly, you can write H01 prime. What will be this? This will be root over epsilon 1 over mu 1 times E01 prime. And what will be H02 in similar manner? You can write this will be epsilon 2 over mu 2 times E02. And let us say these three equations are equation 3. Now we will use the results which we have obtained in this equation 3 in equation 2. In equation 2, you can see what is equation 2. We will actually substitute the value of H01, H01 prime and H02 which we have obtained in this equation 3. So you can say using equations in 3 in 2. When we will use the results obtained in equation 3 in equation 2, what will be our result? You can see this equation 2 first of all. We will substitute the value of H01, H01 prime and H02 from equation 3. And you can easily see after substituting these values, our result will be, in fact, in LHS, root over epsilon 1 over mu 1 will be a common factor, and this will be E01 minus E01 prime times cos theta I, and this will be equal to root over epsilon 2 over mu 2 times E02 cos theta r. Here theta r is angle of refraction. Let us say this is equation number 4. Now actually we will eliminate this E02 from using the equation 1. So you can see what is our equation 1. See here, our equation 1 is in fact this, and we will actually find the value of E02 from this equation 1, and we will substitute this value of E02 in that equation. That is equation number 4. So using equation 1 in 4. In fact, we will substitute the value of E naught 2 from equation 1 in this equation, and after substituting this, what will be our result? You can see this is root over epsilon 1 over mu 1 times E naught 1 minus E naught 1 prime into cos theta I, and this will be equal to root over epsilon 2 over mu 2, and instead of E naught 2 from equation 1 we can write this is E naught 1 plus E naught 1 prime into cos theta r. Cos theta r. And from here we can find what will be actually the ratio of E naught 1 prime, which is in fact amplitude of the reflected wave, and the E naught 1, which is amplitude of the incident wave. You can find it easily. Let us solve this equation. You can see from here that we can write this as root over epsilon 1 over mu 1 cos theta I plus root over epsilon 2 by mu 2 into cos theta r times E naught 1 prime. We have taken this E naught 1 prime as a common factor, and this will be equal to what? You can see this will be equal to root over epsilon 1 over mu 1 into cos theta I minus root over epsilon 2 by mu 2 cos theta r times E naught 1. And so from here we can find the ratio of E naught 1 prime and E naught 1, which are actually the amplitudes of the reflected wave and the incident wave in case of when electric field vector E is perpendicular to the plane of the incidence. So you can see from here that this E naught 1 prime over E naught 1 actually in accordance with our supposition or case that electric field vector is perpendicular to the plane of incidence, I am writing here a sign of perpendicular, which actually indicates that we are considering the case when electric field vector is perpendicular to the plane of incidence. And so you can see from here that this ratio will be equal to root over epsilon 1 over mu 1 times cos theta I minus root over epsilon 2 by mu 2 cos theta r over root over epsilon 1 by mu 1 cos theta I plus root over epsilon 2 by mu 2 cos theta r. And let us say this is equation A. Actually this is the first Fresnel formula, and so I have written the equation number as A. In fact, as I have told you, the sign of this perpendicular in this expression denotes that in the case under consideration, electric field is perpendicular to the plane of incidence. Actually, this equation A gives the ratio of the amplitude of electric field vectors in reflected and the incident wave. That is, you can say this is actually the relative electric field amplitudes of the reflected wave with respect to the incident wave. And in fact, this is known as the first Fresnel formula. I will discuss it sometime later. But first of all, now let us see. We can get actually the ratio of the amplitude of the refracted wave and the incident wave in this case by simply eliminating the term E naught 1 prime from equation by the use of equation 1, and then we will use that in equation number 4. So you can see what will be the value of E naught 1 prime from this equation 1. You can see that this E naught 1 prime will be equal to E naught 2 minus E naught 1. So let us use this result in this equation number 4. So first of all, from equation 1, you can see that this E naught 1 prime is equal to what? This will be in fact E naught 2 minus E naught 1. Now actually we will use this result for E naught 1 prime in this equation which I have defined in this equation number 4. So instead of this E naught 1 prime, we will substitute the value E naught 2 minus E naught 1. So let us substitute this in this equation. First of all, see this equation seriously and then you will use that value. So you can see here. So using this result in equation 4. So you can see what will be the result. The result will be root over epsilon 1 by mu 1 times E naught 1 minus E naught 1 prime. But you have seen that this E naught 1 prime is equal to this much. So this will be minus E naught 2 minus E naught 1 into cos theta I, and this will be equal to root over epsilon 2 over mu 2 into E naught 2 cos theta R. And so you can see from this result that we can write this as root over epsilon 1 over mu 1 times cos theta I plus root over epsilon 2 over mu 2 times cos theta R into E naught 2, and this will be equal to 2E naught 1 root over epsilon 1 by mu 1 into cos theta I. And so we can find the ratio of the amplitude of the refracted wave, that is E naught 2, and the amplitude of the incident wave, which is actually E naught 1. So you can see, therefore, E naught 2 over E naught 1. And in accordance with our case, we are substituting here the sign of perpendicular, and this will be what? You can see from the above result that this will be 2 into root over epsilon 1 by mu 1 into cos theta I over root over epsilon by mu 1 into cos theta I plus root over epsilon 2 by mu 2 into cos theta r, and say this is equation B. So you can see this equation actually defines the ratio of the amplitude of the refracted wave, which is E naught 2, and the amplitude of the incident wave, which is in fact E naught 1. And in accordance with our case, we are substituting here the sign of perpendicular. So this equation, you can see, gives the relative electric field amplitude of the refracted wave with respect to that of the incident wave. Actually, these equations defined in equation A and B are known as Fresnel's equations, as I have told you. So A and B, the relations in A and B are known as Fresnel's equations, or you can say formula. But these are Fresnel's formula or equations when you have considered that the electric field vector is perpendicular to the plane of the incidence. In fact, in the derivation of these two equations, we have considered that the two media are in fact different, having the different permeability and permittivity. Now let us consider a very important special case, and in that special case, let us find the form of these equations in the case when actually the medium is non-conducting and the permeability of both of the medium are same, and that is equal to actually the permeability of the free space. So this is just a special case, you can say this is just a special case. Let the media 1 and 2 are non-conducting and mu1 is equal to mu2 and this is equal to mu naught. So under this situation, we will actually express these two Fresnel's equations in terms of the refractive indices of the two media. So first of all, let us define the refractive indices of the two media, and then you will be able to define these equations in terms of those refractive indices. So let us see. Let N1 is equal to the optical refractive index of medium 1, and let us say N2 is the refractive index of medium 2. Now you have already studied during the study of wave propagation that how these refractive indices can be defined. We know that N1 is equal to root over mu R1 times epsilon R1. Actually, this mu R1 is the relative permeability of the first medium, and epsilon R1 is the relative permeability of the first medium. And you know this relative permeability is actually defined as the ratio of permeability and the permeability of the free space. So mu r1 is equal to what? This will be mu1 over mu naught, and epsilon r1, this is equal to epsilon 1 over epsilon naught. And you can see from here that we have considered that this mu1 is equal to mu naught. So what will be this result? This will be mu naught over mu naught times epsilon 1 over epsilon naught. And so this mu naught will cancel out, and our result will be root over epsilon 1 over epsilon naught. So we have defined this refractive index in terms of the permittivity of the medium. And similarly, you can see what will be actually the refractive index of the second medium. You can write it directly. Similarly, N2 can be written as root over epsilon 2 over epsilon naught. And so from here we can find the ratio of these two refractive indices. What will be this N2 over N1? You can see, substitute the value of N2 and N1 from here. You can see this will be epsilon 2 over epsilon naught square root times root over epsilon naught by epsilon 1. And so this epsilon naught will cancel out, and this is root over epsilon 2 over epsilon 1. And so now let us use this result which we have actually obtained here. What will be actually the equation number? You can see this is, let us say, equation number 5. This is equation 5. And now we will use this result in equation number A. So using equation 5 in A. First of all, I am just writing the equation number A, and then we will use this result. You have seen that in equation A, our result is E naught 1 prime over E naught 1 perpendicular. This is in fact equal to root over epsilon 1 over mu 1. But here you have seen that this mu 1 is equal to mu naught. So instead of mu 1, I am writing here mu naught into cos theta I minus root over epsilon 2 over mu 2. But mu 2 is also equal to mu naught in accordance with our supposition. So this is root over epsilon 2 by mu naught into cos theta r, and over root over epsilon 1 by mu 1, and instead of mu 1 we will write mu naught into cos theta I plus root over epsilon 2 by mu naught. Instead of mu 2 I have written mu naught into cos theta r. So you can see from this result that this 1 over root over mu naught will in fact cancel out. And now let us take this in numerator and in denominator root over epsilon 1 as a common factor. So you can see that this ratio of E naught 1 prime over E naught 1 perpendicular, this will be root over epsilon 1. I am taking it as a common factor. So in numerator, what will be the remaining terms? This will be cos theta I minus root over epsilon 2 by epsilon 1 into cos theta r. And again we will take root over epsilon 1 as a common factor in denominator, and so the remaining terms are cos theta I plus root over epsilon 2 by epsilon 1 cos theta r. And so this root over epsilon 1 will cancel out, and our result is cos theta I minus root over epsilon 2 by epsilon 1. But we have seen just now that what is the ratio of this root over epsilon 2 by epsilon 1. You can see this equation 5, that this is equal to in fact n2 over n1. So instead of root over epsilon 2 by epsilon 1, we can write in fact n2 by n1. So here there will be not a square root, but we can write here n2 over n1 cos theta r and over cos theta I plus n2 over n1 into cos theta r. And let us say this is equation C1. This is equation C1. E naught 1 prime over E naught 1 perpendicular is equal to this much. Now we will use the Snell's law, which we have studied in previous lecture, and using the Snell's law we will get a simple form of this equation C1. So according to Snell's law, you know what Snell's law actually states. Snell's law states that the ratio of sin theta I and sin theta r is actually equal to n2 over n1. This is just Snell's law. So you can see that this n2 over n1 in equation C1 can be replaced by the ratio of sin theta I and sin theta r. So using this Snell's law in equation C1, what will be our result? We can see very easily. And therefore E naught 1 prime over E naught 1 perpendicular, after the use of Snell's law, this will actually become what? This is cos theta I minus sin theta I over sin theta r into cos theta r over cos theta I plus sin theta I over sin theta r into cos theta r. Now let us take the LCM and simplify this result. You can see this will be actually equal to sin theta r into cos theta I minus sin theta I into cos theta r over sin theta r into cos theta I plus sin theta I into cos theta r. And so we can write this expression as, if we take minus sign common in the numerator, this will be actually the result sin theta I into cos theta r minus sin theta r into cos theta I, and over sin theta I into cos theta r plus sin theta r into cos theta I. And you can see the numerator is actually equal to sin theta I minus theta r, and the denominator is equal to sin theta I plus theta r. And so you can write that this ratio of E naught 1 prime and E naught 1 is equal to what? This is equal to minus sin theta I minus theta r over sin theta I plus theta r. Let this is equation C2. And in the similar manner, we will actually now modify the equation, or you can say Fresnel equation defined in equation B, in this condition when we take that our medium is non-conducting and mu1 and mu2 is equal to mu naught. So in this condition, what will be the form of equation B? Now we will see it. So now equation B. First of all, see the form of equation B which we have obtained here. Actually, this is our equation B. This is our equation B. And you can see we will write here, instead of mu1 we will write mu naught, and also instead of mu naught we will mu2 we will write mu naught. So replacing these mu1 and mu2 by mu naught in this case, what will be the form of this equation B? You can see easily. So what is equation B? So now equation B can be written as, this equation is E naught 2 over E naught 1 perpendicular, and you can see this is 2 root over epsilon 1 over mu1, but you know now mu1 can be written as mu naught in accordance with our consideration, and this is cos theta I over root over epsilon 1 by mu1, and again mu1 will be written as mu naught cos theta I plus root over epsilon 2 by mu2. Mu2 is also equal to mu naught in this case, and this is cos theta r. Now you can see this mu naught in numerator and denominator will cancel out, and we take simply this root over epsilon 1 in denominator as a common factor. So what will be this? This is 2 root over epsilon 1 cos theta I over root over epsilon 1, and this is cos theta I plus root over epsilon 2 by epsilon 1 cos theta r. And so you can see this root over epsilon 1 will cancel out, and we will write instead of a square root of epsilon 2 by epsilon 1 as n2 by n1. So using that result, our equation will become E naught 2 over E naught 1 perpendicular. This will be equal to 2 cos theta I over cos theta I plus n2 by n1 into cos theta r, and let us say this is equation D1. In fact, this is one of the form of the Fresnel formula in this case. Now again, by the use of Snell's law, we can transform the form of this equation D1. So according to Snell's law, you know, according to Snell's law, you know this n2 by n1 is equal to what? This is in fact sine theta I over sine theta r. So let us substitute this value of n2 by n1 from Snell's law in this equation D1. And so you can write that E naught 2 over E naught 1 perpendicular, this is equal to 2 cos theta I over cos theta I plus sin theta I over sin theta r into cos theta r. Now let us take LCM, and after taking LCM you can simplify this result, and after simplification what will be our result? You can see this will be simply E naught 2 over E naught 1 perpendicular is equal to 2 sine theta I into see here into sine theta r into sine theta r over sine theta r into cos theta I plus sine theta I into cos theta r. And so we can write E naught 2 over E naught 1 perpendicular. This is equal to 2 sine theta I into sine theta r over, and the denominator can be written as sine theta I plus theta r, and say this is equation D2. Actually, the equations D1, C1 and C2 and D1 and D2, these are also known as Fresnel's equation, but these are Fresnel's equation in case of non-conducting media when the electric field vector E is perpendicular to the plane of incidence. So you can say C equations C1 and C2 and C1 and C2 and D1 and D2 are Fresnel's equations. In case of non-conducting media, when electric field vector E is perpendicular to the plane of incidence, So these are in fact Fresnel's equations, which we have derived first of all in general manner, and then we have taken a special case that the medium is non-conducting, in case of which the permeability of both media are same, and that is equal to mu naught. And so we have derived these results, and these results are in the case when electric field vector is actually perpendicular to the plane of incidence. Now we will see some of the remarkable facts regarding these Fresnel equations. So what are the important facts regarding this? Let us see this in these discussions. So discussions. Let us consider that the medium 1 is in fact a rarer medium and medium 2 is a denser medium. When you say that first medium is rarer and second is denser, what does it mean? It means the refractive index of the first medium will be actually less than that of the refractive index of the second medium. So let medium 1 is rarer relative to 2. That is, in this case, N1 will be less than N2, because you know the nature of medium is decided by the refractive index of the medium. It is a relative concept. In fact, in case of two media, the medium for which the refractive index is lesser is known as the rarer medium, and the medium for which the refractive index is larger is known as denser medium. So I am considering in this first case that our first medium is a rarer medium having lesser refractive index, that is N1 is less than N2. And if N1 is less than N2, then you can say then according to Snell's law, you know sine theta I by sine theta r, this is equal to N2 by N1. And since N2 is greater than N1, as I have assumed it, so this ratio will be greater than 1. And if it is greater than 1, what does it mean? It means sine theta I is greater than sine theta r. And if sine theta I is greater than sine theta r, and you know in case of sine, with increase in angle the value increases, and so in this condition you can say that this angle of incidence theta I is greater than angle of refraction theta r. And if theta I is greater than theta r, or you can say theta r is smaller, what does it mean? It means the refracted wave actually bends towards the normal. You can say that the reflected wave is actually deviating towards the normal. So this implies the refracted wave deviates towards the normal. This is deviated towards the normal. And now you can see from equation which is defined in fact in equation C2. So see first of all what is equation C2, and from that equation in this condition what conclusion we can draw. This is equation C2 here. See this equation. Since we have seen that in accordance with our assumption that n1 is less than n2, in fact theta I is greater than theta r, and so sin theta I minus sin theta r will have positive value, and so this negative sign will remain here, and hence the ratio E naught 1 prime over E naught 1 in this case will be negative. So in this condition you can say, so from equation C2 the ratio of E naught 1 prime and E naught 1 perpendicular, this will be actually negative. This ratio is negative. And if this ratio is negative, what this negative sign actually implies? Actually, this negative sign implies that the reflected and the incident waves are not in same phase, but they are in opposite phases at the interface. So this implies the reflected and the incident waves are in opposite phases. Opposite phases at the interface. When you say opposite phases, what does it mean? It means the phase difference between the incident wave and the reflected wave is 180 degree, or you can say pi. Or in other words, you can say that when an electromagnetic wave is reflected from a denser medium, it suffers a phase change of pi radians. Actually, this is also known as Stokes' law. You have definitely studied in reflection in optics, Stokes' law, and this fact is known as Stokes' law. So you can say this is a very remarkable fact that when an EMW, electromagnetic wave, is reflected from a denser medium, it suffers a phase change of pi. And as I have told you, this fact is also known as Stokes' law. This is, you can say, this is proof of Stokes' law, you can also say. So you have seen that when we consider that our first medium is a rarer medium having lesser refractive index than that of the second medium, in that case we have drawn actually two important facts, that in this case the reflected the refracted wave actually in this case the refracted wave actually is deviated towards the normal. And the second important fact is that the the reflected wave and the incident wave are not in same phase, but there is a phase difference between them which is equal to pi. And so we conclude that when an electromagnetic wave is reflected from a denser medium, it suffers a phase change which is equal to pi, and this fact is known as Stokes law. Now we will consider just the opposite case, that our first medium is a denser medium and the second medium is a rarer medium. Definitely the result will be just opposite. So now let us consider the second situation. So when N1 is greater than N2, it means first medium is denser and second medium is rarer. So if N1 is greater than N2, then this implies that N2 over N1 will be less than 1. And from Snell's law, you know what is this N2 by N1? This is sine theta I by sine theta r, and this will be less than 1. And if it is less than 1, you can say that this implies sine theta I is less than sine theta r, and this implies theta I is less than theta r. And if theta I is less than theta r, therefore you can say this sine theta I minus theta r, this difference will be actually negative, and so you know sine minus theta is equal to minus sine theta, so this will be actually negative. But in accordance with our equation C2, so from C2 you can see that E naught 1 prime over E naught 1 perpendicular, which is actually equal to minus sine theta I minus theta r over sine theta I plus theta r. This will be in fact minus something, you can say this will be actually negative, and divided by something positive something. And so in fact this result will be actually positive. And if the ratio of the amplitude of the reflected wave and the incident wave is actually in fact positive, what does it mean? It means that actually in this case the reflected wave and the incident wave are in same phase. So this implies the reflected wave and the incident wave are in same phase. So we draw a very important conclusion that when an electromagnetic wave is reflected from a rarer medium, there is no change in phase of the wave. So this implies no change in phase of the wave when a reflection takes place from a rarer medium. And again, another important conclusion which we can draw here, that you have seen that in this case theta I is less than theta r, And what does it imply? This implies that in this case actually the refracted wave will deviate away from the normal. So this result theta I less than theta r implies that the refracted wave deviates away from the normal. It is deviated away from the normal. So these are the two important conclusions when we consider that our first medium is denser and the second medium is rarer. Now let us see the third situation. In third situation, you can see that in both of the cases which we have taken under the heading 1 and 2, that this E naught 2 over E naught 1 in equation, in fact, D2. See this equation. This equation is in fact equation D2. See here. So in this case you can see when theta I is greater than theta r or theta I is less than theta r, neither the terms in the numerator and nor the terms in the denominator will be negative. So in this case when we consider that the ratio of E naught 2 and E naught 1, the terms in numerator and denominator, either n1 is greater than n2 or n2 is greater than n1, or you can say theta I is greater than theta r or theta r is greater than theta I. It does not matter. Both the terms, that is the terms in the numerator and the denominator in this equation D2 will be actually positive. So in this case there will be only one situation and that result will be actually positive, that is the ratio of E naught 2 and E naught 1 will be actually positive. So you can see if n1 is greater than n2, when you say n1 is greater than n2, n1 is greater than n2, that is in this case you have seen that theta I is less than theta r, or n1 is less than n2, and you have seen that in this case actually this theta I is greater than theta r. So if either this is the condition or this is the condition, then E naught 2 over E naught 1 perpendicular. You can see the expression which is for this quantity is defined in equation D2, that the terms in the numerator will be positive something, and in denominator this will be again something positive something, and so this ratio will be actually positive. And if this ratio is positive, what does it imply? It implies that the phase of the refracted wave and that of the incident wave are same. That is, you can say that the refracted wave is always in the phase of the incident wave. So this implies no change in phase. And this implies a refracted wave is always in phase of the incident wave. Actually, all these facts defined here in the heading 1, 2, and 3 in our discussion, definitely you have studied in case of the study of waves, either the mechanical wave or the light wave. You have definitely studied under the heading optics or acoustics, but there you have not seen any proper theoretical proof. But electromagnetic theory, which we have discussed on the basis of Fresnel's formula, actually explains these three important facts. These three important facts are what? The first one was actually when a reflection takes place from a denser medium, then the phase of the wave is just inverted. That is, there is a phase change of 180 degree. But when the reflection takes place from a rarer medium, there is no change in phase. And the third point which we have obtained is that the transmitted wave or the refracted wave is never inverted. It means there will be never a change in the phase of the transmitted or refracted wave. So all these facts which we have studied in case of wave motion in optics and in acoustics can be explained by this Fresnel's formula very easily on the basis of electromagnetic theory. So this is the beauty of this theory, and so you have seen how useful these Fresnel's formula are. Now, in fact, the second case in which we will again obtain the Fresnel's formula, that is when electric field vector